Hello, everyone. I actually said hello to most of you like 5 minutes ago, so I'm sorry for that. Let's get moving because the time is running out. So we have 200 slides today to go through, and this is an extended version of the deck that I went through during In Orbit conference, but it was like that deck was a little bit limited. So now we have 100 extra slides with some extra data that's gonna be helpful. Mario, is it okay now with the echo? Because I think I fixed it. Jemek, can you hear an echo? Okay. Yes, okay. Okay, so let's move forward. I hope that everything is gonna work now with after fourth approach. So for the last 10 years, we live in the massive, oh, Marcus, hello. For the last 10 years, we live in a retail apocalypse. So basically, a lot of offline stores were closing down, moving online towards e-commerce, and that was fueling our lives as both SEOs, marketers, and e-commerce people for the last 10 years. And this is something that this is something that's basically around customers, consumer habits moving towards online shopping. And it turns out that there is a massive, massive trend that's accelerating over the last 2 years. So if we look at the trend in 2019, quite a lot of stores, this is data from the US, quite a lot of stores closed down completely in the 2019. But the offline store count is declining for the first time in years. And I think this is one of the most underappreciated data points out there, because we can see that for the first time since 2009, the number of offline stores is going down. And we can only assume with the pandemic situation, this trend is going to be even stronger over the next 1-2 years. So there are quite a lot of stores, or basically quite a lot of baskets, and customers are moving from offline completely online. So this trend is huge, and the problem is that with 2,000 just in the US, 2,000 like 2,200 stores closed down in 2018. This number was only for the first quarter of 2019. So we can see that this trend is accelerating at an enormous pace. So looking at that, there are some stores that are a little bit less susceptible to this trend. So if you have a drugstore, if you have a gas station, if you have a dollar store, those are still doing very well offline, because people are still used to going for the groceries, for obviously gas. You can buy gas online, as far as I know. And dollar stores, those things are still thriving offline. But if you're in one of those trends, so if you have a department store, if you have apparel store, like H&M, if you're into consumer electronics, then you will see that those companies, those stores will go online, because people are used to buying clothes online. People will go for to buy a laptop or a TV online more and more often. So after 2010, we now live in online retail apocalypse, because there are so many stores going online, and all this data, all those slides were done pre-pandemic. So I can only imagine this trend is going to accelerate even more. So this e-commerce trend was like that when I was making this deck around January and February, but we can only imagine that there are going to be even more e-commerce stores opening, because that's the only way for them to survive after the last virus and coronavirus situation. So let's move forward with that. So what can go wrong? Because for years, I was very, very sure that there is no limit to the number of stores that can go online. Turns out that it's not really happening. So if you look at this short video of Walmart, I think it's Walmart, we can see that quite a lot of pages with hundreds of thousands of e-commerce stores, you won't find those in Google. So looking at that, you may have 50%, like in case of Walmart, it's 45% of products not indexed by Google. They're indexable, they are not canonicalized, they're not no index, and so on. They're just not indexed in Google. Same goes if you search for any of the content from those. So it's not only a site colon comment problem. You won't find those online. So for most of us in the stream today, and Jemek, can you write down in the comment how many people do we have today in the stream? So actually, for most of you, for most of the e-commerce people, you have on average 17 to 20%. If you have a very large e-commerce store and it's quite optimized, you will have 17 to 20% of your products not in Google. So 37 people. So out of you, most of the people who work at e-commerce or work with e-commerce stores, you will see that as a massive problem. The only issue here is that there are no tool sets to index that. So moving forward, so some of the biggest problems would be for the websites you can see on screen. Actually, CNBC is a very extreme case in our database. The same for Verizon, the same for Eventbrite. Eventbrite actually is extremely bad, and Medium, we're going to go into that in a second. So you will see that some of the biggest stores, biggest websites, biggest publishers out there would be really, really difficult for them to diagnose that. So looking at that, the biggest problem with e-commerce is indexing. But when there is a flood of e-commerce stores, we will see that the problem is gonna be even bigger. And we can see right now that a lot of those stores that are closed down right now due to lockdowns, due to pandemics, due to all the limitations, are all going online. And the problem is that Google seems not to be very, very happy about that, because they are flooded with hundreds of thousands of stores each day. And then on top of that, those stores are using more advanced technologies. They need to be rendered, they need JavaScript, they need all those things. So moving forward, the e-commerce trend is growing. So we have more and more people going online. So we can see here, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse here, but you can see here that online customers, there are more and more online customers going online, but the number of e-commerce stores, and this is data point that's nowhere to be found, but we did a little bit of search, and the number of stores is huge. It's way bigger. Oh, freeze! It's way bigger than the number of online customers going online. And even if this trend of online customers going, we fine? Ooh, we have a freeze. So let's wait this through. Anyhow, I'm guessing YouTube is a little bit overwhelmed with streams going on today, but let's move forward. So even with the pandemic situation and more users going online because they have to shop somewhere, we can go. We can see that this is still not going to catch up, because there are going to be all the stores going online, and not that many customers now are going to shop online for clothes, for running gear, for all those things. So moving forward, you can see more of the data about that following this link. But on average, 20% of products are not found in Google. This is based on top 500 stores. I think this is data set from the US. Don't remember clearly that now. But anyhow, 20% of your products on average are not indexed. And this is data for top 500. So if we're going to look at smaller stores or stores that are not that optimized without all those budgets, they will struggle even more. So the problem is that the diagnostic problem for indexing is quite unpleasant, let's say. So this is this image here is a colonoscopy device. So I'm guessing this is a very similar problem to what you're gonna have when trying to diagnose your indexing problem. This is basically not very easy. And because we have a little bit of extra resources due to the problems right now, like with the pandemic, we have some resources. We can check your indexing free of charge, no strings attached, if you submit your email and your website here. So we can do that for you, just so you know if you have a problem with that. And this flood of online shopping is going to be even more, because Amazon is seeing this trend of more people going online, and they are, like, I think that most of you guys saw this article. They're going and hiring 100,000 people to handle all the online shopping right now. And the problem is that this is still something I'm preaching for the last 2 years. We as SEOs, we as e-commerce people, we as marketing people, we don't know how to use all the new technologies like JavaScript. Like, we don't really understand rendering. I'm not even going to mention mobile first. That's here for a while, and still most of the websites kind of struggle with that when you crawl them with a mobile user agent using, for example, Write. But we're going to get to that in a second. So the problem is, right now, we don't want to play to survive. We want to grow, because just surviving is not really going to get you where you want to be, because you're going to be pushed out sooner or later by bigger players. So today, let's get to action. It's going to be no bullshit, actionable, and that's my promise to you. But the only thing, it's not going to be that easy, but I'm going to do my best to somehow simplify that for you guys. So what we're seeing when actually fixing indexing issues, what we're seeing is at least 300% growth for our clients when fixing those indexing problems. But even if you don't have that, you can at least index, even if you don't believe that, you can at least index that 17% to 20% of your products and basically get that traffic and sell those. So if you're not very sold on indexing being a problem, you can growth-wise, you can actually sell those sell those products online. So moving forward to and one more thing. One thing that we found that's actually extremely interesting is that indexed websites are healthy websites. And this may sound like a cliche, but let me show you something. Last year at SEO Oktoberfest, Marcus here in the stream and Easy saw this deck. I mentioned a few websites that struggle with indexing. And one of the biggest winner here was New York Post. They had actually 99.5 pages in Google index after 14 days. But CNBC was one of the worst websites. They couldn't index any of the content that would rely on JavaScript. But that also has to do with HTML indexing, but we're going to get to that in a second. But let's have a look at those two websites. So New York Post, 100% indexing, and CNBC with just half of the percent of indexing. If we look at CNBC trend, and just remember, this is a slide from September. So if we're looking at their trend, they lost quite a bit of traffic. And this is a problem with the December 11th update, something that is not really diagnosed fully yet. We're actually writing an article about that for the last 2 months. But on December 11th, every single website, like I would say 95% of the websites within our database with indexing issues, lost a huge chunk of traffic. But the ones that didn't have this problem, like New York Post, they thrived and they gained traffic with that update. So we can see a very strong correlation. Like, if you have indexing issues, which is a sign of poor health, you will lose traffic with some of the core updates with Google that are still undiagnosed. But this is a very strong correlation. And just to give you one more example, that's one of my favorites. If you look at medium.com, we actually, like Ziemek wrote this article on December 4th. Exactly 7 days later, Medium dropped. So we published this article 7 days before they lost traffic with the December 11th update. And a lot of websites that we actually wrote about that struggled dropped on that very date. And the good news is that all those huge websites that you're competing with, like Walmart, like Target, all those are not really immune to those problems, because Target is terrible. They have a lot of indexing issues. Target is not like, Target is okay, I'm guessing, but they have indexing issues. Then Walmart, with 47 of their products out of Google index, they cannot go and they cannot change their trend to be positive. Even though they're growing, they have more products, they're really struggling with growth. Moving forward, some of the biggest e-commerce stores, and this is actually the store that we already started working with, so I won't share the brand, but some of the biggest e-commerce stores worldwide are getting completely de-indexed from Google. So we're seeing not only that you're going to lose traffic, but you may also stop being indexed. So we're seeing big e-commerce stores with like 7% indexing rate. So they would have 93% of their content indexed out of Google. How do we know that? And this is the last part of the intro. We've built a tool set to track indexing delays, and this this slide now is going to be extremely interesting, because if you look at the data, it was like Google was doing pretty well with indexing content. There was like between 20 and 30% of the content not indexed after 24 hours. But on December 11th, and I'm guessing due to the time zone difference within our database on December 12th, we saw a huge spike in indexing problems. And then after that date, we saw a huge pattern of Google indexing less and less content after one day. So the takeaway is that Google is indexing less content. And I completely understand that if you ask me. They are flooded with huge websites, with poor technical SEO, with a lot of JavaScript, with a lot of rendering, but they are not, they don't have resources to go through that. And if they did, if I were Google, if I had the search engine, I wouldn't really spend all those resources on those poorly optimized websites. So we're seeing this massive trend after December 11th. And Google is becoming less forgiving if you didn't do your homework on technical SEO and your indexing issues. And if you go and look at variety.com, a lot of publishers, a lot of very large websites, having amazing content is not enough. Hey, Alex. Having amazing content is not enough. Looking at Medium, they have tons of amazing content, but they still lost a significant chunk of visibility. And now you need to get really innovative to win. And most of the people we talk to, most of the e-commerce people, they would be within the late majority, but because they just started to have e-commerce like now or like 5 years ago. But people who actually get traffic are the ones who innovate, who understand technical problems, and are somehow on the edge of innovation. So if you want to get organic traffic, you need to actually move to the left side of the screen and need to get a little bit innovative to see those euros or dollars coming into your account. And that's why I think this is the first time when a massive organization said that SEO is the number one most important skill in 2020. And again, Microsoft owns Bing and Yahoo, so they are seeing that this is a problem to get technical for marketers to actually understand that. So the last thing here is that after fixing those problems, after fixing your indexing issues, we're seeing a trend similar to the one that we saw years ago with Penguin or Panda. You get a full recovery to where you were before the drop. So this is extremely interesting because we didn't see those patterns for a while. So let's get to work. Let's get technical. Just a sip of coffee, and let's get you more traffic in 2020. So how to address indexing issues? There are three main pillars of ranking and indexing. And one of those is obviously content. You need to have amazing content, but that's not nearly enough right now, as we see by medium.com example. Then the second one is crawling and rendering. So you need to get very technical. You need to start crawling your website as often as possible. So if you don't have a crawler, if you don't have like Ride.com, if you don't have any of those, you won't really know what's going on with your website. Especially that I think that Ride is the only one now with mobile crawling. Like, you can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but most of you are gonna go and have a desktop crawl, but Google is going through a mobile crawl. So you're looking at a different data set. So you need to go with a mobile crawl, with mobile JavaScript crawl to be completely valid, and compare those, like mobile JavaScript crawl with mobile HTML crawl, and see if you have any differences. But that's going to be in a second. And then website structure. So website structure, information architecture, indexing strategy, those are super important, and those actually cannot be replaced with a tool. Unfortunately, they need a lot of brain power. So for years, we believed that content is king, but I wouldn't really be sure if medium.com would agree with that. They have tons of valuable content, but they still lost quite a bit of visibility and, I'm guessing, traffic. And now in 2020, content is only part of a much bigger picture. So looking at that, my clicker is slower than me. There are some key content problems, and looking at the audience here, you guys are quite technical, so I'm not going to go through those and explain those in depth. So most of those would be duplicate content, stale content. So if you have an article predicting who's going to win during Euro 2020 championships in Poland and Ukraine, this is not really something you should keep within your domain. So if you have, maybe if you have one article like that, that's fine. But if a lot of your content is stale, then you need to move it to a subdomain. You need to do something. You need to have a clear strategy towards what you do with content that's not going to be searched anymore for the next few years. Then zero search volume content. And we see a lot of those, and I'm guessing you know what I'm referring to, because if you have those clickbait website with 10 shocking things, those are not the things that people search for. So it may be valuable content for someone who likes those, but it's not something that has any search intent behind it. So you need to have a clear strategy of what to do about that. And then index bloat. So all the things that are not really valuable, and we're going to get to that, but you can Google it right now. You can search for MacBooks under $100, and you will see this result on the screen. And this is quite interesting, but we'll get to that in a second. So right now, you need to earn your content being indexed in Google. This is the first time in history, because I remember like 10 years ago, you can have a 10 million page, 10 million website, 10 million pages website. You could index that and you would rank amazing because it was huge. Right now, you need to earn that your content is going to be indexed, that your products are going to be in Google indexed. So when you, like articles like this one, they have zero search volume behind them. They don't have any intent of people searching for 19 shocking food facts that will cause you never to eat again, which is, yeah. So this is not really something you want to do if you want to get organic traffic. This has its place in the world at social media, I'm guessing, but make sure that whatever you have, that people are actually searching for your content. And if they do, you need to address their intent. And now let's come back to the Sears.com and that wonderful example. Also, Sears.com is also struggling with indexing, and I can see why. So this is actually a very, very interesting and deep example because it has quite a lot of different layers of problems. So let's look into that. I googled MacBook Pro under $100, and I found Apple laptops under $100 at Sears. Sorry. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Let's look into that. And unfortunately, when I clicked on that, there was no Apple laptops under $100. I was so disappointed. So all of those, like you may actually get traffic to a page like that, but it's only going to give you a very poor user experience. So, and again, this is affecting Sears.com quite a bit. Then second problem we need to address is rendering. And iHerb.com here that we're going to talk about here as well. This is a very interesting example. Turmeric spices, if you're looking for that at iHerb.com, this is how Google rendered this page. So you can see, okay, it looks good on your phone, but it's actually not something that people are seeing. Moving forward. So you need to make sure, still in 2020, you need to do that, regardless of what someone told you, that your content doesn't rely on rendering. And you may have a client-side rendered website, but if you do, you need to be an amazing JavaScript SEO. You need to have a lot of knowledge and monitor that every single week. If you don't, just build a website that doesn't rely on rendering. So then if you have content and links relying on JavaScript, and this is one of the examples that if you saw any of my decks before, you might know, but it's still my favorite. So if you go to H&M, go to any category, scroll down, you will see this wonderful button that's not clickable by search engines. And the problem with that is that Google cannot click that. So they won't crawl anything past the first page of pagination. And that's why the trend is declining. So Google is not going to click that. Google is not going to render that. So they will index less of your content over time. And you need to understand how rendering affects your store, affects your website. So if you go, you can have a lot of tools to do that. And what would JavaScript do is a tool that actually going to tell you how rendering change your canonicals, how rendering change your links, how your content and everything like that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, there is no other tool like that. So you can play with what would JavaScript do within our toolset, 100% free, and we're actually not gathering that data. We're not calling those websites because there are a lot of weird websites in that database. But the biggest issue with that is that you cannot only check your homepage. You need to check your category page, your product page, your subcategory page. You need to go through all the views, like just as you would work with a design studio, going through like different UX views of your website. You need to check every single view, every single pattern you have within your domain to make sure that it works well. And then obviously mobile friendly test from Google. And you would be shocked, like most of the websites we're looking at in this test fail miserably. And then obviously, if you want to get geeky, go read Tomek's Bible about JavaScript. It's only like 80 pages, but it's going to explain quite well all the JavaScript problems. Let's move into crawling. And this is a very simple concept. Basically, you have some kind of budget from Google, and having 10,000 pages crawled by Google is a gift right now because Google is declining crawler budget for quite a lot of big stores. So if you have those 10,000 pages of crawler budget, use it wisely. So make sure that a lot of those 10,000 pages are going to be valuable and indexable. But then if you put a lot of like no index tags, canonicals as a way to create like an indexing strategy, then you will lose Google's budget and you will basically lose rankings over time. So make sure to use that wisely, look into server logs, crawl your website, see how that works for your website. Because we are seeing that hundreds of thousands of no index pages are actually something that a lot of SEOs are using as an indexing strategy, which is very, very unusual. So make sure you're not one of those. And just this is one of my favorite examples as well, similar to H&M ones. If you go to this page within Sears, so MacBook laptops under $100, this is actually canonicalized. So this page has a canonical. I'm not gonna talk about how beautifully this canonical is created within code. If someone is technical, they see what I'm talking about. But it's in theory canonicalized to the homepage. But Google ignored that, and Google is ignoring most or maybe all canonicals within Sears.com, because they keep abusing that to sculpt, to whatever, do page rank sculpting, like, or create like a very unusual indexing strategy for search results and all the other pages. So obviously Google, like John Miller mentioned that, relative canonicals, the code joke. Very funny. And also, you need to have a very clear strategy for all the products that are somehow discontinued, that are new. So you need to know if you have a seasonality like Zara Home, or if you have a new collections of clothes or anything going to your store, you need to make sure that old ones that are not available anymore and old categories that are somehow not available anymore, what to do with those. So you need to have a very, very clear strategy for discontinued products and new collections. And again, make sure that your navigation is not relying on JavaScript and rendering. And then you will have this problem with index categories with 0 products, which is also a very big pain in the ass. So moving forward to website structure and information architecture. So it's no longer that content is king, and I can really defend this if there is like someone from good old times of SEO listening to this webinar. Now intent is the king. You need to very, very well understand what's user intent, what they search for, and what do you need to present for them to for your users to actually be satisfied with what you're showing them. So just ranking and getting traffic, as we see with Sears.com, is not enough in 2020. And user intent, websites indexing strategy, and information architecture, they go hand in hand, and they are very closely connected. Let me show you that. And again, that's one of the biggest challenges for e-commerce in 2020, because it requires a lot of SEO knowledge, a lot of brain power. It's not something that can be automated. Let me show you an example. if you search for turmeric curcumin supplements within iHerb, and I'm guessing that iHerb is killing that right now with supplements, with everything around health and medicine. If you search for that, you will see those results. And by looking at those 4 Google results, 1 being an ad, 3 being an organic result, I'm seeing a massive problem with their information architecture and structure. Let me explain that step by step. So what's the user intent? What is someone searching for when they look for turmeric curcumin supplement within iHerb? Which part of my website is going to address that intent best? This is something that if you look at that on scale, you may get, again, a lot of traffic, but to wrong pages. And this is something that Google is not going to do for you as well. Moving forward with that, are there different versions of that turmeric curcumin? Are there different intents possible behind that intent? And are the different, so you know what I mean. So you need to also understand that you may sell turmeric supplement and turmeric as a spice. Then you need to make it very clear which one is which. And then if the intent isn't clear, so if someone is not looking by turmeric, do you want which page do you want ranking for that? So you need to have different levels of pages within your structure ranking for all the different intents, and so on. So how many pages within my domain are addressing this intent? And this is interesting because if we look within, for example, iHerb, you would be surprised looking within your stores, like how many pages there are that are actually addressing that intent. If we look at this website, we can see that 170,000 pages within iHerb.com are actually about turmeric. So they either have product that's turmeric, or they have a category like that. And then moving forward with that, we may have wrong pages ranking for that, and wrong information architecture is also something that's going to affect your PPC spend. So looking at this query, I'm looking for turmeric curcumin, and there are 2 different things. I Googled it, I wasn't sure. I want a supplement that has both those things. And so the first result is an ad going to completely wrong page. The second one is turmeric and curcumin formulas, but it only has 36 products. The third one is obviously a wrong intent. And the fourth one is actually what I'm looking for. And the fourth one has 178 products, but the second one with similar intent has only 36. So we can see what like how bad they're losing because of bad structure or some kind of problem within their information architecture. And again, I think this is one of the biggest problems right now. But also looking at all that, you may have, okay, what does it have to do with indexing? Because those are clearly connected, and that's something we're researching over the last year quite a bit. So search engines are looking for content that's matching users' intent. So if we're looking for, we need to clearly let Google know if this page is addressing this intent. Otherwise, if Google is not seeing, if search engine is not seeing that your page is connected to something that people are searching for, or they cannot clearly divide those, then they're just not going to index your page, or not going to basically see your page as valuable. So you need to know if, for example, benefits of curcumin and turmeric, they go to articles because this is an informational query. These are basics, but they're so like usually very badly implemented. Or you have a very transactional query like buy curcumin, or you have a product query that goes not to category but then to straight to the product. So you need to divide it, and that has to work on scale. So if you look at iHerb.com, also their visibility trend is showing that this is affecting them somehow. And then we need to go to a unique selling point. So we're way past trying to rank for iPhone X with, I don't even know what that number is of search results. We're done trying to rank for any product names if they have like a massive competition, because usually the brand producing that product is going to rank, or very big brands. But you actually shouldn't optimize for a few pages for a few keywords. So that's why I'm getting at, you should try to make sure that your whole structure is proper, because then the one page that ranks is going to be the proper page. So let me show you an example. If you search for iPhone X within Sears.com, you will see that there is a very bizarre result. So they rank with iPhone X VZ gray, and they rank with a 64 gigabytes gray iPhone. I'm not sure if I want a gray one. Maybe I want more. Maybe I want more gigabytes. So if we compare the Sears.com result on the right-hand side with Best Buy, we can see, okay, they rank for that, but they rank for that with the right page. So that's actually why you need to really look into your information architecture struggles. So looking at the big picture, looking at how all that things are added together, we're looking at all the, like Google is going to crawl your website. Let's say they crawl products first. They will see a lot of duplicate content. They will see a lot of duplicate pages or pages that they cannot match with a clear intent. And they will stop crawling you, and they won't find unique, valuable pages. But then we can also see that because of that, they won't crawl your category, or they won't clearly match that category with an intent as well, because you may have too many of those. But then you go, like Google tries to crawl you from the homepage, they go to category, there's infinite scrolling, and they actually go through subcategory. That's fine, it works well, but they can only find 36 of 500 products. That's an H&M example. And then we can try to go with more and more of those examples. So again, going through a homepage, category, subcategory, and then having a lot of indexed either search results or filters or categories with no products, then you will see that, again, Google is going to give up at some point. One more scenario that's going to cause indexing issues is that if Google crawls your website, see, for example, a performance drop, when they crawl you a little bit faster, they will see that this is a problem, and they're going to slow down and pause crawling you altogether. But what we're seeing most of the time, is that all those things are connected, and we need, like, to rank well, to index your content, you need to address all those problems one by one. So you cannot just focus on information architecture, but then your server is going to struggle. You need to make sure that all those things, this whole mix, is really working well for you. And I've prepared a little bit of a homework for you today to actually address those. And if you have any questions, just also feel free to ask them in the chat. But first of all, every single one of you, if you have an e-commerce store, create a visual drawing of your whole structure. So we usually use draw.io for that, even though it's quite quite simple, let's say that. But basically, try to draw all your categories, everything that that's within the main tree of your website, and see how those are actually marked within code and so on. Then review your indexing strategy. So make sure that you have a strategy for faceted navigation, for all the search results within your domain, what's going to happen to those, for sold out, discontinued products, for new collections, for all those. And then use Write.com or any other crawler to set up weekly crawls of the whole website. And again, crawl your website with a mobile user agent. Obviously, you can still do that with a desktop one, but you need to crawl your domain the way that Google is going to crawl your domain. So crawl your domain with a mobile user agent. Make sure that you crawl that with and without JavaScript to see if there are two different graphs. If they are, that basically means that you're losing control of your SEO, of your indexing stats. And that's one of the questions that we would usually ask our clients. How would you find orphan pages? So if you have a page that's not linked from the main structure, how would you find it? Like if the crawl cannot find it because obviously it's not linked, maybe it's not within the sitemap, you need to make sure that you have some kind of strategy, clear strategy that everyone knows about to address those problems. And again, all like, this is very basic, but this is again something that if we all do that here in the stream today, go download your sitemap, see if all the URLs within your sitemap are returning code 200, but then are they indexable and are they valuable? And then see if there is any internal cannibalization. And again, that's something that I think that only Write.com is doing right now with the Search Console data. So see if you have any any keywords where you can see two different URLs within your domain competing for the same keywords, for the same intent. Then the next step is how much original and valuable content do you produce? So you may have the website that's very well optimized, but what's the real value? What's the unique value that you're putting out there? Because Google is also looking at that. You need to give something to get something. And there was a lot of case studies recently showing that this is actually happening with, for example, blog content being removed, how it's going to affect your visibility. And then how you measure value and track value, because we talk to a lot of people, they would say, okay, my content is very valuable. How do you know that? Do you talk to people? Is this content shared? Is it getting links? How many links is it getting, or how many traffic is it getting organically when you publish that? Like, is it going through social media and people talk about that? You need to make sure that you have some kind of value within your store that actually that makes your content worthy of publishing. And to wrap up, in 2020, it's actually quite simple. So I don't think I said anything shocking today, but we can get more traffic, and we're seeing that with every single e-commerce store or we're working with, you can get way more traffic. You can compete with Walmart, you can compete with Amazon, you can compete with all of those huge brands because they're not that well optimized. But the problem is that looking at our data, your e-commerce is missing 17 to 20% of the products in Google Index. And again, this is based on top 500 stores. And looking at some of the smaller ones, we're seeing stores like Yux.com with, I think, 70 or 80% of the products not in Google Index. We can check that for you, again, completely free of charge. We have a little bit of free resources now, and we can send you that result within a few days. Because, but also you can do that yourself. So you can try to check indexing stats of your content, but you would have to be quite savvy with tools like Skyrocket, get some proxies. You can have intervals. So it's quite complex. We actually have the toolset for that, so we can do that for you free of charge. Just as a thank you for coming to this webinar, because I know that with right now you have a lot of options webinar wise. So now it's your turn, guys. If you have any problems with that, any questions, if you're not sure if you're doing that the right way, reach out to me. We're more than happy to talk, to help you out with everything that you may struggle with. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you all guys soon live after all this madness is over. So do we have any questions from you guys? Do you have any questions to that? Do you want any help with indexing your e-commerce store? Oof. Ooh. Also, we have quite a lot of we have quite a lot of I'm not sure if we actually should go through that, but if you guys are interested in that, if you want to geek out into all those questions, into all those problems, we have a massive list of stores, of URLs from the biggest stores out there. Thank you, Tomek, for that question. I'll answer all the questions in a second. We have a massive list of all the URLs that are not indexed. So if you want to play with those, we can obviously share those, and you can look into those case by case. Going through the questions, I have a shop where all tags are no index, so it would be better to physically remove them. So if you have a shop where all the tags are no index, I would make sure that you somehow make sure that you're not wasting crawler budget towards crawling them. Because even if you have, I'm not really sure what the ratio of that is, but let's say that 10% or 20% of your domain is marked no index, Google still has to crawl them every single time to see every single time again that there are no index. So I would highly recommend to go through some other ways, blocking those in robots or making sure that they are not accessible through crawl if you really have to use those tags. But if Google has to crawl no index tags, you're wasting that budget. Moving forward, Tomek, how was your day? It was actually, I to be honest, enjoy staying at home, even though some of the problems out there are making it difficult. Yeah, that's quite nice. Branko, we've seen a drop in December and are quite on the good way back. Your presentation confirms that. Amazing. So Branko, if you've seen a drop in December around December 11th, again, reach out to us. We're more than happy to look into that. Most of those drops are somehow connected to indexing problems, and also like Medium.com recovered from that, and they addressed some of the problems. Not all of those, but they recovered because they addressed that a little bit. So they're still not indexed very well, but they're moving forward. Cannibalization. Is it better to de-optimize pages or setting up canonical? I wouldn't go with canonicals, and I wouldn't go with de-indexing. I wouldn't go with any of those. If you have cannibalization, you can either merge those pages or sometimes it's better to create what we call, like internally, a hybrid page. So sometimes it's better if, for example, you have two pages competing for a curcumin. You're not very sure what the intent is. So create one page for curcumin going through, and within that page, address some different intent. So I'm landing on the landing page curcumin. I see spice, I see supplements, I see facts or info about curcumin. So make sure that if you have a lot of cannibalization, it shows that Google is not very sure of what the intent of the user is, or what exactly which intent your page is actually addressing. So make sure to create something that's going to address that. I got there that for Google it's better to drop. So again, with cannibalization, it's like with kids. If you have multiple pages fighting for one keyword, a different domain is going to steal that. Moving forward, Wojtek, sometimes despite good site structure, Google ranks wrong page for a given keyword. So first of all, like, thank you for this question, Wojtek. Like, this is one of this conversation that we're having quite often. If you have a good site structure, so if your information architecture is clear and your content is very clear within those pages, it's very hard to rank with a wrong page for a given keyword unless an alternative page is really, really bad and Google is just trying to choose anything. So I would have to see that in wild, but we didn't see those that often. Piotr Wasilewski, what's your opinion about no-follow backlinks? Oh my God, this is a long story. So with everything, like, we're not really that much into backlinks. This is a question to Wojtek Mazur, but looking at everything that's happening, I think that Google is slowly shifting from no-follow. Basically, they look at those all the backlinks as signals, but just this is not. I don't have that much expertise in experimenting with those. So, but yeah, I would assume that now do follow versus no follow has less and less difference. I see fitness is trendy. Thanks, Bart. Fitness. Out of stock, Carol. So yeah, out of stock. I can actually put those on screen. I didn't know that. So out of stock products that will be back next year. No index or 404 or leave as is. I think they don't have valuable links. Oh, this is always a case-by-case study. So I would definitely not 404 them. I would, if possible, depending on the scale, if you have to no index those and like add something like you can be notified when the new product comes up. I wouldn't 404 them and then move back from the 404. If possible, I would try to work something up. But then I think no index here quickly would be the best solution. But if we looked into that, there's definitely something. There are definitely some options to address that. How COVID is affecting SEO? Oh my God, Michał, that's so. COVID is not affecting SEO that much, but it's affecting our clients. And again, to be 100% frank with you, we have a lot of clients, including like from enterprise to like 5 people companies. They actually have they struggle. So when our clients struggle, we don't really have the guts to like force them to have to pay us, and we let them pause the project. So this is how it's affecting our agency. Hopefully it's not going to be a huge trend, but when we have an e-commerce client from Italy, they cannot sell anything. Yeah, it's going to affect us because we're going to pause the project. So I think that COVID is affecting most businesses, but basically if it's going to affect the SEO community, and it is, it's going to affect us through basically stealing revenue from our clients. And that's something we cannot really do much about, because if there's no search for a volume, if there is no, if people don't buy products, we cannot change that. And unfortunately, it's not within our power. Branko, how do you check with your which of your own pages is fighting for position with oh, that's a very good question. You go to I think that we have Marcus here in the chat. Go to write.com, have like a free trial, or just chat to them. They have this feature within they fetch all the data from Search Console. It takes like 8 hours or so for big stores, and they show you first of all the anomalies. So if something has changed in a very unusual way, but then they will show you all the cannibalization. So they will actually do that work for you automatically, like live. So all the time, they like, you can log in every day and see if there's something new coming up and address that. So that's really keyword. Oh, easy. Thank you. Keyword cannibalization in right search success. Yeah, I usually just click around right until I find that after like 10 minutes. But yeah, so that's the answer to that. Tobias, if you have a lot of articles where useless for Google, but someone wants to keep them somehow as an archive, so delete the snapshot, what do you do? So we usually, like, again, this is case by case, like no index on the old products. If we had Maria here, our head of SEO, she would give us more examples, like live examples of what we do with those. But if you have like tons of articles of, like, again, match predictions is something we had, I would, like, from the top of my head, I would still consider moving them to a subdomain like archive.yourdomain.com, and that would be something to do. I wouldn't go with robots or disallowing a part of the domain from crawling with articles with no search volume. Camera lost my focus. Okay, so I would go and consider subdomain as a, like, from the top of my head. Again, this is a little bit better when looking case by case. Yeah. Do we have any more questions? And again, just to summarize that, this is actually quite simple with getting traffic to e-commerce. Like, looking at most of the e-commerce stores, but also publishers, like most of the websites right now, they struggle with indexing, and this is something you cannot see in Search Console. This is something you cannot see in crawls, unfortunately. Even though I love the guys from both Right and Deep Crawl, this is something you need to somehow try to check regularly. We're trying to make it accessible for you guys, but adding each domain and tracking your indexing requires quite a lot of basically manual work, because we need to get to know how your sitemaps are structured. When we check indexing, we need to remove all of the no index pages, pages blocked by robots, canonicalized, that are somehow in the sitemap. Obviously, they shouldn't be there, but they are. And that's really going to give you quite a lot of traffic. And yeah, this is not a clickbait. You will get shitload of traffic after fixing your indexing problems. Branko, quite a lot of people are asking me about conferences, a lot of SEO conferences this year. I am in a high risk group, the virus-wise, with my health problems. So I don't think I'm going to be traveling that much this year. But also my biggest worry, and that's something that hopefully the Brighton guys are not here. The biggest worry with SEO conferences is that we're going to be speaking to empty rooms. I don't think that too many people are going to risk travel, but we'll see how everything looks like in September. Maybe there's a cure already, or something we can do to safely travel. Without that, I don't think, like, most of us should take the risk and getting this shit back into our business. Easy, more webinars. I would love to have a webinar with you guys, like with Right. I know that you have something about e-commerce for sure. Let's do that. Maybe we can talk Tomek into creating a JavaScript webinar. That's going to be like 8 hours one. Oh yeah, we're going to be organizing many more webinars, but at the same time, I was shocked today because we're competing with, I think, quite a bit of other webinars at the same time. So I think that it's best if we as a community will combine. That's why I'm trying to join Right or someone else, maybe have like a one webinar with 10 people rather than 10 webinars at the same time and competing with each other. Oh, so Brian Dean's experiment. If you look into that, it wasn't that huge of an experiment. And oh, thank you, Ziemek. So I wouldn't be really looking into that much, because like Brian Dean is a very smart guy. I didn't meet him ever, but looking at his content, he's doing a lot of very good job. But unfortunately, he's not that technical. Looking at that article, the problem is that if your web performance would impact your rankings, there are a little bit more metrics to look into, like all the things that are in cracks, critical rendering path, how it's going to affect crawling performance, and so on. So I wouldn't really look at that experiment as a proof that web performance is not affecting rankings, because we have quite a lot of those where just fixing time to first byte or server performance would really get you like very good results performance wise. So we have a lot of case studies showing that performance is going very like is affecting visibility, but it's a little bit more complex than what Brian Dean did. That's actually a very good idea for an experiment. Easy. Maybe we can do one with Right. And I think that's it. Like it's 7 p.m. here in Poland. I'm guessing. Oh, speed is one of the few confirmed ranking factors. That's true. Actually, Google is pushing that quite a bit. Thank you, Ziemek, I guess. But I can think of a very simple way to prove that. If you slow down, just to make it very simple, slow down your server because that was the Brian Dean's experiment was just with one page. If you slow down your server and Google is going to crawl you slower, then you're going to lose quite a lot of rankings like that. Maybe not for a website this size. So maybe for onely.com, we wouldn't see that because the website is very small. But for e-commerce, slowing down your server or slowing down your web performance is going to affect crawling, indexing, like a lot of factors that will actually lower your rankings. But we would have to prove that with an experiment. Easy. We've got a plan. You and Tomek can create that amazing experiment. Okay, so do we have any more questions? Okay, thanks so much, guys. Yeah, the webinar will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Unfortunately, hopefully, we're going to cut out all the awkward beginnings. Yeah, we will upload this deck, I'm guessing. This is something we can email you later on through, like for everyone who was subscribed, so we can email you the deck. I also have like this massive checklist of like very geeky checklist of what to check when diagnosing indexing problems, but then this webinar would be like 2-3 hours long. So we are working on putting that into paper and explaining all of the steps. Okay. I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks so much. I know you guys have like shitload of options today with webinars. I was signed up to like 4 different webinars yesterday, and I only attended one because Netflix. Thanks so much. Oh, thank you, Tristan. Thank you, Arnoldo. Thank you all of you for coming. Use the link on the screen to submit your website. Tomek's team, so our R&D team, is gonna do whatever they do to check your indexing stats, and then we'll send you the result. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your evening or morning if you're in California. And yeah, have a great day. And stay safe, stay home, I'm guessing. And ending broadcasting. Can we email one-on-one? Yeah. Yeah, all of you can all email me whenever you like. So it's bartosz@onely.com. Email me all your questions. I'm more than happy to help you out. Once again, thanks so much, and go crawl your websites with Write and broadcast.